day by day, more people started hiring me for the same service. And that has been probably the majority of my income for the last bunch of years. So Your Social Media Sherpa was born. Now I help people get clarity and accountability doing their own marketing. I help their marketing be productive and help them understand how their business brain and knowledge connects to what they're going to do on the internet and how that's actually going to help them get more referrals and beyond. So that's me. Here I am. Most people that are probably listening to this are probably not going to be famous TikTokers for posting really silly dance videos. They're probably real people with real brains that can be helpful to someone. And it needs to be what you say to people on a regular basis. That needs to be communicated in some way. And if they can't get on the phone with everyone and spend 3 hours explaining their business, then that's a missed opportunity. But if your website can do all that education for you, that's going to make that phone call so much easier to get because people will already know what your deal is. And that's what I love to bridge for my clients.
So good morning and welcome to another edition of Better Business, Better Life. Today I am joined by Shaily Hakimian, who is from Chicago over in the US. And she is the founder, or she likes to call herself the cheerleader, at yoursocialmediasherpa.com. And we just had a bit of a chat, as I always do before we come on the show. And this lady is just so full of energy and a lot of knowledge about how we can actually use social media to our advantage. So welcome to the show, Shaily.
Thank you so much for having me. It's cool to be down under a little bit virtually here today.
And we actually were a day ahead of you, so you're actually in the future right here, right now.
I love it. Yeah. Love it.
Now, we were just talking about social media, and obviously your story is a little bit different because you were a teacher when you first started out of college. Is that right?
Yep. I studied education.
So tell us a little bit about your journey to where you have got to today, because my understanding is you started in education, then you got into doing social media, but now you actually teach social media. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You nailed it. So what were you going to say?
No, I want you to tell the story in your own words. How did you get to where you are now?
So unofficially, I started on MySpace doing social media for online community that I founded for a bunch of nerds who love the shows Big Brother and Survivor. So I don't know if you do you like those shows?
I don't like them, but I certainly know of them. They're huge, of course.
Okay, I'll take it. So I started managing that. I didn't think much of it. Applied for a job after college or internship job, whatever it was, to manage social media. And I'm Jewish in the Jewish community. So I was like, oh, Jewish social media, doing good. I was like, and it was TED Talk related. I was like, this is amazing. I love all of these things. And I wrote on my job, they were like, have you ever managed online communities? And I remembered, MySpace, what I was doing was managing an online community of nerds. I'm going to vaguely add that to my cover letter and explain that I have done this before. And I got the position, and that job led to other jobs doing more social media. But all of that while I was also subbing and teaching and doing all sorts of stuff. This is my early career. It was a little messy, right? As it should be.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get more people to pay me for social media. And I was like, hey, hire me to do your social media. Hire me to do it. I want to post for you and all that stuff. Let me tweet. Let me poke on Facebook, whatever. And so I was promoting myself at a BNI meeting where all the business networking people are in Chicago. And I said, I want to do your social media. And people would not really bite on that. Maybe they weren't the right size clientele for the services I wanted to offer. But one lady came up to me and she's like, hey, Shaily, I don't want to pay you to do my social media. And I was like, no. And then she's like, but I do want to pay you. And I was like, go on. Can you teach me how to do Instagram and teach me how to do my own social media? And it was a light bulb moment because I had studied education in college and I love motivating people and cheering them on and encouraging them to be their best selves and all that kind of stuff. And I love working one-on-one. So I was like, yeah, of course I'll offer that service. And I charged her a little bit of cash for it. She loved the service. I loved doing it. And I was like, oh, okay, I might want to do more of this. And, day by day, more people started hiring me for the same service. And that has been probably the majority of my income for the last bunch of years. So Your Social Media Sherpa was born. Now I help people get clarity and accountability doing their own marketing. I help their marketing be productive and help them understand how their business brain and knowledge connects to what they're going to do on the internet and how that's actually going to help them get more referrals and beyond. So that's me. Here I am.
And I always ask my guests, what are you most proud of? So, in your life so far, what are you proud of?
I just love when people realize that they're capable of what they didn't think they were capable of. I love my clients who've been in their 60s and who are just killing it and not scared to try new things. And I just love watching them go from I don't know how this thing works to I'm actually excited about social media and I know that my energy is worth something. And that makes me feel really, really, really proud. The other fun thing, like I love the book Profit First, and I got to go on Profit First podcast recently, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Very fun professional win. That was a cool thing.
Yeah.
The other fun thing, I know sometimes you like to know about personal stuff. I love hosting people, and I got real tired the last few years of hosting people in my home. And the last, 6 months, I've had a few parties, and I'm like, yay, I love bringing people together in person, and the world is coming back. So those are a few things I'm proud of.
I think we share some very, very common interests.
Yes.
I'm a very, very, very big connector. I love bringing people together. I love sort of looking for opportunities to go, hey, you need to talk to this person here. This is really cool. Yeah. But anyway, we're going to talk about social media today, because I think a lot of people think social media is just a place where you go out there and you kind of brag about what you're up to and you post lots of sales stuff, and then they wonder, why they're not getting any results. Or on the converse side, they're not even sure what to post. And so they just sit back and go, I don't know what I'm going to post. So how do you see social media overall?
Ooh, so the dumb, simple answer to this is that social media is a conversation at scale with people, ideally people you already know or have a relationship with, answering questions they didn't know they needed answers to. Where do you get that information of what to post? What do people ask you on sales calls? What questions are constantly coming up? What things do people constantly not understand about what you do in your business? If you can make that information available to them through the information that you put out, through your website, through your emails, maybe text messages, whatever your medium is, that's going to make it easier for people to build that relationship and trust with you before they're ready to say, hey, Debra, take all my money. So that's a little snippet of how it all connects. And I think a lot of social media out there is like, oh, if you post really interesting stuff, people will find you. Most people that are probably listening to this are probably not going to be famous TikTokers for posting really silly dance videos. They're probably real people with real brains that can be helpful to someone. And it needs to be what you say to people on a regular basis. That needs to be communicated in some way. And if they can't get on the phone with everyone and spend 3 hours explaining their business, then that's a missed opportunity. But if your website can do all that education for you, that's going to make that phone call so much easier to get, because people will already know what your deal is. And that's what I love to bridge for my clients.
Perfect. It's actually quite interesting. I remember a number of years ago, actually probably sort of 10, 15 years ago now, I actually had somebody do a video of me and who I was and why I existed and what I loved about helping businesses. And the way that it was kind of sold was that actually, if somebody actually watches that video, when they eventually do decide to connect with you, they feel like they already know you.
Yes.
Because they even though they've never met you, they've got a sense of, I know who Debra is. So it wasn't about me going out there wanting to talk about myself, but it was just, it would give people the sense of, this isn't a cold call. This isn't I'm approaching a complete stranger, but there's somebody I already know. And I think it was also designed to kind of get rid of the people who aren't your people. Because let's face it, we do not appeal to everybody. And that's perfectly okay. So it's actually a way to kind of filter through people and scare off the ones you don't want and attract the ones that you do. And I think that was 10, 15 years ago. Now social media plays a huge part in building that relationship with people. Would you say?
Yes, 100%. It's, look, for me to see you and bump into you on the streets and just say, oh, hey, Debra, it's been a while, is impossible, because we live on different sides of the world. But now I can bump into you all the time when I see your stuff pop up on LinkedIn, because we're connected, right? And that makes more touch points than you could have. I remember I always use the example of, like, you go to the grocery store and you bump into a friend and you're like, oh, friend, like, I haven't seen you in so long. I was just thinking about you. And then you catch up and then you think of, oh, you should go meet so-and-so. And then I have that moment. But, like, obviously COVID didn't help with having more of those moments, but you can do that on the internet, because when people add you or they follow you or they like you or whatever the pages that they're connected to, whenever you put stuff out, they might see it. And now they get to know you and have more conversations with you without you having to show up one-on-one with everybody. And that's what's worked for business over bajillions of years. But now how are you going to stay in touch with Joe Schmo that you met 2 years ago that you haven't seen in so long? You're not going to bump into them randomly. But if, like me, you add them after a networking event to your LinkedIn, they will see your stuff potentially forever. And that's a great way to build context beyond that one meeting point, right? Like you said, it's building that relationship with them over time, just like it works in real life.
Yeah, strange that, hey? Because that's the thing. I mean, social media is just another form of engaging, interacting with other human beings. It's just like you would do at a networking event or any other life event, I suppose. Yeah. So I think a lot of our kind of listeners are probably a little bit more established. They might actually have a marketing person or a marketing team who are doing their social media, which is cool. But there is more to social media than just the company doing posting and doing things, isn't there? I mean, what would you say to them who are maybe the owner of the business who's not actually necessarily doing much themselves, but just giving it to a team to do it for them?
Oof. Well, my understanding, and I'm pretty sure people who are listening to this are in this boat, where they're not actually giving their team the information they need to be as successful as possible. And maybe they're okay with just meh social media. There's plenty of people who will do meh social media that'll check the box and it's good enough. But really great social media is getting the brain of that owner who knows everything about that company, everything about the products, everything about everything, down on paper. Think like FAQs, easy hack. This is one of my tips I want to share is, have they told their story about why they started the business, how the business started, why they care, what they wanted to do different in their industry, right? That information is not going to come out of, a creative person who's doing your social media. But if you give them that, they can make it more interesting and they can package it in a way that's going to resonate. So that's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, is that they don't know how to communicate that. And so what I love to do is I love coming in to a company where they have a social media person, or they have an assistant, or maybe an agency too. And I bridge those worlds together, because every single one of these types of service providers has an agenda, and they're like dead focused on it. But if you don't know how to communicate what you need out of them, you don't always get what you want, or you don't get as much as you want out of it. So the more you can tell that story of the leadership or the person that people usually often connect with, the easier it is for other people who haven't had that opportunity to get you and your company and why it's so special.
Love it. Okay, that's really cool. So what do you think is the biggest mistake that people make around social media?
Oh, well, I'm going to pull something you said earlier, right? Like people don't know what to post.
Yep.
And a lot of my clients will start posting like kind of salesy, like, hey, I'm taking bookings for this year, or, hire me for this, or like, oh, here's my new package offering. And it's like, people don't care. They don't care what you're offering. They don't know what your deal is. And they're posting information that's like, oh, I won an award. I'm like, I don't even know what that award is. Do I care? And like, yes, it'll pop up and you'll see their face and it's fine, but that's not helpful.
Yep.
So I think that's one of the big mistakes I see. And a lot of people don't get that. It's just like, what smart things do you say on a regular basis? Can you just like write them down and put them out there? Because like we said, they don't get to see you in person. If there's a tip or there's a story, is there a past client that you can tell a story about how you transform them that can give an idea to someone who's watching you that may not be ready to buy from you this year, right? Yeah. There's all of this stuff that you are probably naturally putting out this content in person that you could be just putting out online for more people to see. And I think people don't realize how much they already know what they need to be saying. They just don't know to validate that as social media content.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I actually still do. I work at the university over here in Auckland, and I actually teach the students about networking. And I say to them, when you go networking, you don't just walk up to somebody and go, "Hi, my name's Debra. I'm a business coach." I do blah, 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 blah. You wouldn't do that to a complete stranger. You shouldn't do it on networking. You shouldn't do it on social media either. You actually have to build some rapport first. You actually have to get to know the person. You have to add value to them. I mean, the question you should be asking all the time is, what can I do to help them, and what value can I add to them? And when I sort of say this to the students, they're always like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that, because they've got it in their mind. They're there to meet people, collect cards, get their details. And that's really not what networking in my mind is about.
No, but here's a hack to that, right? Because I love networking. I've always like, I'm a network queen. Like people know I'm a connector like you, right? Yep. And so what I will do is I'll add somebody on LinkedIn while I'm at the event, because I'm a nerd like that. It could be weird. It might not be for everybody. And I'll look at their profile. First of all, look who are mutual connections. And sometimes it's like really smart people. And I was like, oh, you must be really important if you know these 5 people in my network. I don't know. Sometimes I'm weird like that. And then I also find out what we have in common really quick. And I know what their deal is. But also when they look at my profile explains exactly what I do, right? So if I can't get everything out in my little conversation, they have a chance to look at what I do online. And same for your students, right? Like it's a free interview essentially for either a job or for a business project or for a gig or anything.
Yep.
Excuse me, my cough is like killing me. Everyone's getting sick. Winter over here, so enjoy your beautiful summer that I know you're experiencing.
Sadly, it's a bit wet and miserable over here at the moment, so we're not getting a great summer.
No!
Yeah. So I tell you what, just talking about tips and hacks and things, one of the things that I actually think is really handy too, when you do connect with somebody, you know how you get the chance to actually add a note? I always put in that note where we met. So it was really great to meet you today at this place or through this person. Because, of course, with LinkedIn, that's there forever. So if I ever go back and go, where on earth did I meet this person? Look, first message, woohoo, we met at this networking event. And that saved my butt a million times, because I forget things very quickly.
Yes. And I do that for my social life too on Facebook all the time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you can use, that is the best hack. Because like, especially if you don't have a CRM, well, I'm sure your people already have a CRM, but it's like almost
Not
like a pseudo
necessarily.
CRM.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Okay, great. Use that as a CRM. Like, hey, here's what we met. Here's what we talked about. And this is great because now if you ever want to reach out to them, or if they ever reach out to you, you're no longer a stranger. You're somebody who has context and history with them. Speaking of hacks and tips and stuff, one of the other mistakes I see that isn't really the most intuitive, and it took me a long time to understand, I'd call it, I guess, the Shaily-ism, the quote that I say is bring the juice to the top. So make the first thing that shows up like the juiciest thing. I think, what is it? Like people in writing or people who used to work in newspapers say, don't bury the lead. Like it works here too. So I always say like, you know, if you ever watch a TV show, they always have like a preview of like, come after the commercials, we'll find out. Are they going to fall in love? And is it going to be great? Who's going to get murdered? Right. You want to hook you to come back. And if the first few lines of your, you know, show or your tweet or whatever are not interesting, I don't want to keep reading. Right. And especially like on LinkedIn, if they don't click that see more button, they're not going to see that the most amazing thing that maybe you had later in the content. So it doesn't, with video, it works, with audio, everything. Like tell people what's inside. Don't hide it.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, we actually use snippets to promote this podcast, right? And those little snippets are little hooks that go, hey, this sounds really interesting, let's get into it. But for some people, it's not natural to write. So
I hate it.
And so, you know, we're all very happy talking to people, but if you're not a natural writer, there could be a fear of going on to say, well, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to, you know, what am I going to do on social media? What would you say to that?
So this is what I think is really fun about how I operate is that there's not like one way that every one of my clients does social media. I find a combination of what they're good at. So like, for example, I love doing podcasts. So this is why I do more podcasts than I do writing because I hate writing. You find the thing that they like, they're more capable of doing, whether it's short form, long form writing, tweets, audio rooms, whatever. And then in combination to where their people are, and ideally something that they can do consistently. So if they can make one video every 2 weeks, deal. If they can make one email every week, deal. Whatever that is. So when we find that killer combination, it becomes less work than they realized. The content's much better quality and it's consistent and it's in a format that they don't hate, because I always was like editing my LinkedIn posts that were text-based for so long. And I absolutely, again, I hate writing so much. I'm like, now I have a virtual assistant in the UK actually, who is helping me with writing. And I'm like, whew, miracles.
And that's another little tip, isn't it? Like if you don't enjoy writing, get somebody to interview you, get them to ask you all the questions, and then you can just get them to sort of transcribe it and they can use that to start doing your post for you.
I love that. But it's exactly it. Like, you know, do the things that work for you, right? When I figured out how to not take 15 hours to edit my old LinkedIn content and instead take an hour to do a whole video post, like it saved so much time. I got rid of all my perfectionism, which also a big issue, I think, especially for women. But I made it a lot easier. Now I have an easier way of producing content that I don't hate, that's giving people the information. It's not about how perfect every edit is. It's about giving people insights they didn't know they had access to from your information and content. It doesn't have to be perfect, but
no, and it's really interesting. I mean, I was an early adopter of social media, if I'm honest. So it's always been something I'm quite passionate about. But it is interesting that some of the real kind of, you know, just off the cuff videos that you put out there, that you look at it and as a woman you look at yourself and go, oh my goodness, look at my double chin, look how terrible I look, and I'm talking too fast, blah, blah, blah. But they're often the best because they're just you. And at the end of the day, people are going to do business with you. They don't want the polished version. They don't want they want to actually know who you really are.
Yep.
Which is why we also don't edit our podcasts. So we literally just record them live and they go out there. Well, we might take your coughs out, whatever. But apart from that, we just let it go because sometimes you kind of get a bit tongue-tied, but nevertheless, it's a natural flowing conversation. It's who we are.
I love that, right? Yeah. I love that permission, though, you gave yourself, right? Like if you were like some massive super celebrity with 300 million followers or something, maybe then you need all the edits and all the perfection and all the BS. But it's like, I think what else is happening is I think a lot of people get knowledge about social media and marketing for kinds of companies that aren't the level that they're at. If you have somebody who works at Coca-Cola giving tips to your 200-person company clients, right, that's not going to be relevant for them. But there's plenty of people who will do that. I'm like, I worked for Coca-Cola, have me for your marketing. They don't know what that day-to-day life is like for those people. And I think that's the other thing I want your people to be really cognizant about, is that who's giving this information? Is it for your demographic? Because it's right for somebody else, but they're not there yet. And they shouldn't spend their time and energy worrying about every little detail.
hmm Okay, so obviously, I love LinkedIn, but there's a lot more social media out there now. And I think, I used to teach digital marketing way back with the Marketing
Mm.
Association here in New Zealand. And I
Ooh.
would always say that actually the
Mhm.
first thing you need to do is establish who your target market is. You don't need
Ooh.
to be on every single social media. You don't need to be doing everything, but
Mm-mm.
actually, who is your audience and where are they most likely to want to consume this kind of information? And I don't think that has changed, but we still get this pressure. You need to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Mm.
LinkedIn. What do you think?
So I think if you're starting from zero, I can see how finding the target audience and kind of researching where they are is a good move.
Yep.
I skip all of that in my work
Ah,
with people. I know, weird.
okay. Yeah.
So my people, like you and me, are connectors. They're people that have a network that loves and trusts them. A lot of times, if you're starting from zero, it's hard to like say do this and get followers, right? The best starting point for them before they're trying to find random people from the sky to fall and become their clients is, and I ask this to my leads all the time, like, how are you currently staying in touch with your referral network? And they look at me and they're like, oh, I could be better, because a lot of times that's how they get their business, word of mouth, and they're not staying in touch with it. So my whole strategy, and this is literally anybody can do this from listening to the show, is see where those people are. Maybe you have their emails already. Maybe they have their phone numbers. Maybe they're already, a lot of my clients, they already have these people on their LinkedIn profile already. Like they're already followers, right? And then you need to put stuff out consistently in front of their faces, because they're the ones who've given you past clients. They're the ones who can illuminate and realize, oh, I need Debra again. She needs to do more training for us.
Yep.
That's really the secret, because once you already have that audience, you already are an influencer. It's just not as obvious on social media that you're an influencer. You're an influencer in real life. But people don't bridge those two worlds. They don't realize that it's one and the same. And that's why I kind of skip that step, because they know their people already. And sometimes it's just clearly articulating to the people that already know and love you and reminding them what you do, because they might have forgotten if they haven't seen you in 6 months. And that's the magic of social media, is that you pop up in front of their faces on a regular basis. So when Joe Schmo is like, oh, I need an EOS trainer. Oh yeah, Debra's great because she popped up on my LinkedIn this week.
Yeah, top of mind is actually one of the key things.
Huge.
I mean, I'm a traditional marketer from way back, and so like we always talk about how do you stay top of mind, particularly for purchases where it's not an everyday or an every week purchase. It's when they're ready for it. And so actually, and I remember, I'll never forget, I actually had a person just recently who I sent out a book to back in March 2020, and I never heard anything from her, but we were connected on LinkedIn. 2 and a bit years down the track, probably almost 2.5 years. I suddenly get a phone call out of the blue, sort of saying, hey, I know that you sent me a book, back in March 2020. We're ready to do EOS now. Could we have a chat? And I sat there and I went, in 2.5 years, I've heard nothing from you. You've never commented. You've never done anything on any of my stuff, but she's there watching. And I think that's what we forget, because we get caught up in the whole, how many likes did I have? How many people commented on our post? It doesn't actually really matter in some respects. It's like, it's just being that top of mind, and consistency. I think that is the other thing, is that a lot of people, they start it, they don't see the results that they kind of expect from it, and so then they stop, and they stop, and they start, and they stop, and they start. The one thing I think I've been really good at is consistency.
I mean, that's huge. That's literally it. Like, the best example, oh my gosh, my face. The best example I have of this is think of like any TV show out there. I think I even made a post about this, like Game of Thrones. Like, people were crazy about this Game of Thrones shenanigans. I didn't watch it, but whatever. They were like obsessed. But if Game of Thrones said like, oh, there's 10 episodes in every season, we're going to make the first 4. And then we just got busy and we just like don't feel like releasing the next 8 episodes or 6 episodes. And like, people would be really mad. And like, maybe we're normal people and maybe there aren't that many people obsessed with us, but like, people are looking forward to seeing your stuff. And when you don't pop up, it's like the relationship is kind of broken a little bit. So I think a lot of people...
And they'll replace you with somebody else, right? I mean, it's like if Game of Thrones didn't have another episode come out, we'd go and find something else to watch on Netflix.
Exactly. And it happened to one of my shows that I was watching. It was a web series like 10 years ago. And I was so sad. And then they came up with episodes a while later. And I was like really bummed about it. Because I was like, oh, I thought this was coming out in a month. And it's like, nope. And it lost my enthusiasm and it lost my engagement. If they don't have my email address, I'm never going to see that show again. So... what I tell people to do, and this is, I think, different than what other social media, like, oh my gosh, social media coach, oh my gosh, I'm so cute, like all those people say. Like they used to say, like, you have to post, 3 TikToks a day, and you have to post, 3 pictures on Instagram every week, or whatever it was. It changes all the time.
Magic.
Right. And then they tell you to do that. I'm like, that might not be wrong for the platform, but if the people who are listening to this are doing it themselves, or maybe they have a team member, that might not actually be in the capacity of the team to execute on. Ooh, I sound so gross, but it's life. Here we are. Entrepreneurs who work hard through the coughs. Okay. So that's really what I tell my folks is find something that you can stick with, because a lot of times they will not be consistent because they're taking on too much too soon.
Yeah.
I had one client that did the same thing. She's 23 years old. 24. She's 23 when I started working with her. I was like, oh, she's Gen Z. She should know this stuff. She has a friend who's a TikTok influencer. Got her convinced to go on TikTok and do stuff, right? So she's like, every day she's posting on TikTok a new video. So I'm watching her and I'm like, yeah, good job. Keep going. You're doing great. But I told her, you're going to hate this in a few weeks because you're not going to be able to stick with it like a crash diet. Mm-hmm. And as much as I believe in her and I know she's going to be rocking it for the rest of her career, I was right, because you don't want to crash diet social media. So I told her, find something you can stick with. And for her, it was actually, her network was on LinkedIn. For her, writing a nice, beautiful LinkedIn post every other week or so that's written was actually jackpot for her. And that was much more up her vibe, because she liked writing and she's less of a video person. So it's about finding something that works for them.
And it's kind of like doing what you love, you know. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're going to be less likely to do it. And like you said, you can set yourself up for failure. Because if you really, you know, if you can't, I mean, I do a newsletter every week and I do 1 or 2 podcasts every single week without fail. But I love doing it. So for me, it's something I really, really enjoy. And so it's easy for me to do. But it's still quite a bit of work. And for some people, that might be too much. And that's okay. Like, it's like, how many hours do you like to work in a week? I always have this conversation with people. There's no right or wrong answer. I personally love doing 55-hour weeks. That works for me. But 70, no, thank you. And if I was doing 20, I'd be bored. So it's like, you know, that's my right number. But for other people, 20 might be perfect. And for other people, they don't mind working 80 hours. I think they're crazy, but you know.
No, don't do it.
Yeah. But so it's about what actually works for you. Do you enjoy doing it? And is it the right? So as you said, I love that analogy. Don't binge diet.
No, because that doesn't work. Work. It doesn't work for anything in life. But that's why, like, you know, for me, like, I didn't have a newsletter when I started, but like I slowly started building it up a few years ago, and now it's kind of almost automated. It kind of runs on its own, but it's still very personalized and lovely. If you want tips, by the way, it's on there. But it took me a long time to build up to it. It took me like 6 months to build it, and now it's in motion, right? But the benefit, I get the benefit of the work that I set up years ago, right? And I don't have to create brand new content for every single email. I think a lot of that content already exists in my world and just needs a little bit of tweaking. And it's still valuable to whoever's on my list now. So there's a lot of ways to loosen the pain of social media.
And as you said, you don't have to do it all yourself. And it's like people sort of say, oh, if you're not posting yourself, it's not authentic. Well, it depends on how it's done. I mean, the people who post for me, they've spent a lot of time talking to me, interviewing, getting to know me. I've told them what's important for me to share and what I want to cover. With my VA over in the Philippines, every week I say to her, these are the things. And I feed her stuff as I come across it and go, we want to talk about this. So I give her direction so that she can then be like me in terms of, you know, taking out the content. So you don't have to do everything yourself. I do write my own newsletters, and I do actually do my own podcasts, obviously. Get it.
You don't have to do it all on your own, right? Like for me, I make the videos and I give it to my VA and she writes me a little blurb. And I hate writing the blurbs. And I'm like, she can write the blurbs for me. That means my brain could like relax.
Do the stuff you love. Yeah.
You know, right? I'm like, oh, this is 2023. We're getting rid of writing from my life. It's funny. Now they're all the people listening like, she hates writing. I'm like, you know what? I love doing this, right? One-on-one, talking to people like you who's lovingly hosting on your show, or my clients. It's fun. This is my strength. I think that's the best thing about having my own business, is that I'm building where I spend my time around the things that I'm good at. And, you know, even I have to do some, you know, we all have to do stuff that's annoying to us too. But I think that's what's so great about it, is I can only get better and better at the things that I rock at. And I think that just makes us all shine better, right? We're exactly where we need to be.
Cool. So tell us, I always ask our guests to give us the top 3 tips. What are the top 3 things that you've learned, either professionally or personally in your world, that you really think have actually changed your life or changed the way you do something?
Ooh, well, you added the in life. I was like, oh gosh, in life. Well, okay, random social media ones, right? Bring the juice to the top. That's a good one. Consistency, easy, good one. 3 is bridge your brain to your marketer's brain. And if you need help doing that, hello, Shaily, here to help. Conflict resolution for social media, except for there usually isn't conflict, but that's how I come to it, whatever. Those are some 3 interesting quick nuggets. The other things I would say are about life. Man. Here's what I would say. My favorite thing to say to people, it's totally left field, but is don't deprive the world of what makes you special, because Yeah, every one of us has a unique combination of skills that nobody else will have. And there's nobody will have the same lens of the world that we do, right? If someone, I'm never good at this, like, how do I bridge these things, right? If somebody knows about baking in cars, maybe there's a hybrid there. I don't know. Somebody knows about, I'm just making it up, but there's better examples of this, right?
Yep.
Comedy. Okay. Like here's one, like a drag queen who does magic, right? Like that's super specific. As somebody who's done magic in my life, I'm like, that's cool, right? That's very specific. And nobody will have that. And I want more people to share that wonderfulness with the world or with their people, because that's what's going to fix the messes of our world, is that nobody will, the more of these layers that we understand, the better we can do for the world. Just like me with teaching on social media, right? Yeah. So that's something I'm really, really passionate about. Just something to make the world a little bit better. I can talk about happiness hacks. That's like a really random thing. I don't know if you want to hear all those shenanigans there, but I have some hacks there.
Oh, yeah, go on.
So here's another tip.
Before you do, though, I just want to quickly share something as well. So Gino Wickman, who actually wrote the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, he actually always says, fly your freak flag. Like, just go out there and fly your freak flag.
Do it.
And I think that's what you're saying. Is like, actually, don't be ashamed of who you are. Just go out there and be absolutely 100% you. Otherwise, it's too exhausting trying to be somebody else.
I love that. And you know what? As you say that, like, I have to keep telling myself that every day. Because I have my own fears, right? But people think, oh, Shaily, you're so open, but there's things I've hidden in my life. So I love how you phrased that. That's amazing. The last thing was like
happiness hacks. Yeah?
Happiness hacking is, especially, like, I know I'm proud of my generation, millennials. We love talking about mental health and getting therapy and stuff. Always a good thing. But one of the things that I do in between that kind of mental health support is I collect anything nice that someone has said about me, from like compliments on social media to like DMs about watching my videos and being like, oh, you've helped me figure something out, or whatever. Like, Shaily, thank you for introducing me to these friends, inviting me to a party, whatever. And I save them in a folder. So whenever I'm having a rainy day where I'm sad or upset or don't have anyone to cry to, which doesn't happen that often, but very occasionally, I'll open that slideshow and read it. And it'll just be loving messages coming to me when I didn't know I needed it the most. And there's lots of ways to do it, with postcards or letters people have written, all that kind of stuff. And so that's something that keeps me moving and grooving, because I know that what I'm doing is so important and I need to keep going. Because for entrepreneurs, like, there's a lot of moments where we want to quit and like do something else. So that's how I keep myself moving.
Yeah. Actually, we had something similar in our office. So my assistant and I, we used to have a jar where every time something good happened, we just write on a Post-it note into the jar. And then at the end, when we were having those down moments, we just pull something back out again. It's like, that's right. That's why we're here. That's what we're here to do.
Yes. Yeah. Trick yourself with joy, I guess, in a way, with reminders of the possibilities. And I love that.
I love it too. Cool. Hey, look, I'm sure we could talk forever and ever and a day, but I'm conscious of your cough as well and not making you any worse. So before we kind of wrap it up, just let tell me first of all, what does your ideal client look like? Who do you love working with?
Who do I love working with? Well, I love working with people who are determined to make things happen. Like, my people are not sleepers that are just like, oh, somebody just go help learn the social media thing on the site. It's like people who are doers, who get stuff done, who have built something amazing off of a really powerful network. They're connectors. They're people that they're very, very confident that they know that there's more money to be had in their network that they're not tapping into. And they're already trying social media, but just haven't gotten it yet. They're people with the unique stories. Like we said, the freak flag, right? Like, I love that. Right now, I did some math, and it's a lot of Jewish men over 35 who have their own companies of sorts, whether it's their own nonprofit, their own passion project, or their own company that they've run for a long time. They're established. Sometimes they have a team, sometimes they don't have a team. Sometimes they are 17 people, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, whatever. And sometimes it's organizations that need help with their online event presence and stuff like that. So there's a lot of bridging between events and social media that I love to do. So that's a little taste of it. But also, the other taste too, and I don't talk about this enough, is schools and institutions where there's young women especially who don't know how to talk about what makes them special on LinkedIn and beyond, honestly. And it's the same things I teach my business clients, is how you talk about what you do. How do you put yourself out there in a way that feels authentic and nice and beautiful. So those a little taste of my people. Yep. And they're badasses. Can I say badasses?
Yeah, of course you can. Absolutely. And I believe on your site, so your website is www.yoursocialmediasherpa.com, but you've also got online courses, right? Is that right? Is that what you said earlier on today?
Kind of.
Some videos, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I have a video series. I used to sell little ones, but I'm not trying to be a volume business. I like my handful of clients that I get to really dive deep into. But I do have a video series that is totally public that helps you count on where your next client is coming from through the efforts of the internet. And it's not platform dependent. So it could really apply to so many different kinds of businesses, even businesses that don't use the internet at all. They might not even have to. They can, like, my strategies can be applied to postcards. And I think that's so funny. Yeah. So it's 5 videos. It's 25 minutes. It's public on my YouTube channel. I think it is available as a course on my website. Just it's a gift. It's like a free thing.
Yeah, sure.
And it's adorable. And I put a lot of love into it. And somebody can take that. Any of your people listening can take that and like hand it off to their team and then have a new wave of inspiration for whatever it is they're doing. And that brings me joy. So,
oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your love and your passion. So if people want to get in contact with you, obviously I've given the website. How else would you suggest they get in contact with you, Shaily?
Yoursocialmediasherpa.com. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And LinkedIn, you look up my name on LinkedIn and you will see, actually, that's a really great place to be. That's where I post all sorts of tips and tricks every week. Super light, super easy. Nothing is crazy hard to understand. And I think that's what people really love about it, is it's very accessible to all sorts of different people. And I love that. So yoursocialmediasherpa.com, Shaily Hakimian, all over the web. And it'll be a great time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I do hope that you get a bit better soon. That cough is sounding like a little bit terrible. Yeah.
Oh,
what's the temperature over there at the moment?
It's like 30s maybe. But I just got back from Miami, like in the middle of the night last night. So very different. It was like 80 degrees there, which is nice. I don't know what that is in Celsius. Chicago is, I'm like, how do I use my Apple Watch to find the weather? Stop it. I do Apple Watch, another hack. I love my Apple Watch so much. Yep. It's 31 degrees, which is, I don't know what that is Celsius.
No, neither do I. But we'll work it out. Anyway, that's all good. Well, look, hey, thank you for coming on the show, especially given you've had a late night and you're not feeling so great. Really appreciate everything you've done.
About this.
We are going to be obviously friends for a long, long time, so I shall look forward to bumping into you on social media.
Yes.
Yeah. And hopefully sometime soon we'll actually get to meet in person as well.
Goals. You know, I don't know if I mentioned, I spent 3 months in Australia, so I didn't get to see New Zealand, but I did get to spend a lot of time down under, and it was a joy. And so my Australian people are coming. Oh, my Australian host family is coming to Chicago in a few weeks. So I get to have a little taste of down under shortly. Yep. So maybe one day I'll end up in New Zealand, but who knows?
Just for the record, I've lived in Australia for 10 years as well. And I'm actually an Australian citizen, a British citizen, and a New Zealand citizen.
That's what I saw. I saw that. I was like, she's been everywhere.
But New Zealand is the best.
It's hardcore Kiwi, I see.
You must come and have a look. Yeah, it's an amazing place. Absolutely amazing.
I've heard.
Hey, well, look. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You too.
Look forward to keeping in contact.
Stay fabulous. Mwah.
You too. See you, Shaily.
See you.